Right, so we've done the videos showing all the effort that goes into making the BioVital inoculum compost, and now we're going to show you, well, one of the many reasons why we make this inoculum compost, which is to make, well, the official name is actively aerated soil and plant probiotic. We call it compost tea for short, or probiotic. But anyway, so this compost pile which you see here, in 7 weeks from now, will look very much like this. Now this what is in my hand here, this is about 5.5 months old since this pile was finished. You've got about 6 months after you finish a pile where there's enough diversity of microorganisms in the compost to be able to turn it into probiotic. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this beautiful stuff. This has got hundreds of thousands of microorganisms, you know, in this. Probably 50% by weight of what you see here will be actual living microbes. Now we're going to put this into water and some foods and a lot of aerated water for 24 hours, and it will turn, as Paul Taylor used to say, hundreds of thousands of microorganisms into thousands of millions. And you can see it under a microscope. It's remarkable. What it does is the water and the foods, they wash the microbes off here, and because there is so much air in the liquid, you know, 1,200 litres of air a minute, so much air, so much food, these microbes wake up out of dormancy and go into, well, really a breeding frenzy, if you like, and really breed up. And then you've got about 6 hours at tops to spread that before the oxygen runs out. So, and that liquid, the probiotic, is what you spray. You're spraying microorganisms onto your pastures, onto your orchards, onto your gardens, to inoculate them with the microbes. So obviously you can't make that compost and spread it out on broadacre because it's not going to go very far, but you can brew up the microorganisms, and that one pile there will do, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hectares of pasture or cropping, you know, grains, cereal cropping. It will inoculate them when you brew them up into the compost tea. So 7 litres of this will brew up 1,000 litres of probiotic. So it gives you an idea of the scale of how much, of just how concentrated this is with the right food. So what we're using here today is a 200 litre brewer, obviously a 200 litre drum. There's water inside here. Preferable to use rainwater, it's the safest option. If you have to use town water, which is chlorinated, obviously you want to give it as long as possible to off gas. If you've got unpolluted dam water on your farm, you can use that as long as it's unpolluted, it's not toxic, you know. You can use dam water as well, but rainwater is the safest option. So 200 litres of water. Now we're going to be using this brewer here, which will force air through these pipes, and we'll assemble it in a minute. Through these pipes, wash the microorganisms off this net into the solution. We're going to add this is all proper stainless, food grade stainless steel. You can see the little holes drilled in here. This is attached to the pump and blows air into the very bottom of the tank. It's got these caps on. It's important that you keep the caps off when you're not using it. You've got to clean it very thoroughly after use, otherwise potentially toxic microbes could brew it. Just goes off, goes smelly. So you've got to be able to clean this nice and thoroughly. So this is a good design by Progro Systems makes it. So this goes and sits. This will sit right on the bottom of the tank, forcing the air right in the bottom. So that goes on first, like that. Okay. The next thing to go on is our pump. Now this just shackles on here. Stiff. Now I'll just show you the other part here as well. So this pipe we just put in forces air into the very bottom of the tank and has a real swirling action as well. This next pipe we're going to put on attaches to the top, goes into here where the compost is going to be sitting. the air forces in through from the pump through this pipe down, and also down the bottom. Okay. Once again, it's nice and easy to pull this apart and clean. There's a rubber seal there. It's getting a bit worn and old now. It's done quite a bit of work, this brewer. So this steel pipe has only one hole in the bottom here, okay? Now this will go inside this bag, will go inside here, and the compost is going to go inside here. So the hole, there's a couple of holes on here as well as on the bottom, and this will force the air in and swirl the compost around inside this net, so all the microbes will get washed off the compost and spread out into the solution. So we'll do that in just a moment. The next thing, once we've got it mostly set up, okay, we want to turn this brewer on, get the air flowing through it, and then we always add the liquid ingredients to the solution first, and once they're well mixed in, then we add the compost. The reason for that is the kelp is strongly acidic, which would by itself, if we put the concentrated solution on the microbes, you'd kill most of them. The fish is strongly alkaline with the same result, but once they're mixed into the water in solution, it dilutes it out, balances it off, so you've got a fairly balanced pH in here. So this is why we always add the liquid ingredients to the mixture first, and then add the compost. So just while we're mixing in the ingredients, I've attached this air pipe in. You can notice there's no compost bag in it yet. The reason for this is the air, you can see in here all the bubbles, really aerating the water, and I'm going to add my foods into this solution and let it mix around before adding the compost. See how the bubbles and the aeration is really mixing it in well. Using our oat flour, this is a fungal food. And then this fish oil is not so much the food value. But what will happen is after probably roughly about 18 hours of brewing, especially in hot weather, you'll get a lot of bubbling forming up. So this fish oil will, just from any bait shop, help provide a bit of a film, sort of an it stops the bubbling so much. So really it's just perhaps half a cup dash of fish oil, just to prevent the bubbling over. And we'll let that mix around for a minute or two. Righto, well that's fairly well mixed in. So we'll take this off now and get our BioVital inoculum compost in. This goes in. There. If you try and put the bag of compost in first and then try and push this in afterwards, it's almost impossible because the compost settles on the bottom and won't let you force this through. So a bit of preparation. Good, and now we're ready to go. Plug that in, and 24 hours later we'll have some beautiful soil probiotic. So you can see how much aeration is happening in there. The air is basically blasting the microorganisms off the organic material and washing them into solution. And then the foods that we put in, the fish, the kelp, shumate, the oat flour, is feeding the microorganisms. And because there's so much air in here, it's fairly specifically tested the amount of dissolved oxygen with the amount of air that's being forced through. It's almost like good aerobic soil, the amount of oxygen in this water. So this will take the hundreds of thousands to thousands of millions of microorganisms in 24 hours, and that's what we spray on our gardens, pastures, paddocks. That's it. So with the inoculum compost, the probiotic we've just brewed, there's one more ingredient to the liquid. It's an optional ingredient, so if you don't have it, you'll still brew good probiotic. But the other optional ingredient, which is good to add, is worm juice. So you can see here we've got a worm farm here. So once you burrow down through the wood chips, you can see this has just been fairly. Here we go. These are the your typical compost worms. Little guy on here. So it's a worm farm. So as you can see, very high quality stuff going on there. And then the liquid which drips out the base. Here, as you can see, this is an excellent fertilizer by itself. It's really one of the best liquid fertilizers you can get, an actual fertilizer, not an inoculum. But we add 600 mils of this if we have it. So we'll add 600 mils to our mix of soil probiotic. About 600 mils is right. Just to add a bit of extra diversity. So just a bit of extra food for our microbes. So that's the complete system.